Hello and welcome to the Civ 5 multiplayer extended tutorial. In this tutorial, we're going to cover religion, culture, spying, and the World Congress. These are more advanced and very important aspects that will probably run into beyond the first 100 turns of the game. So I hope you learned something. If you're well versed with Civ 5, if you're new, just keep in mind some of these concepts. They will start to make sense as we get into the game and actually use them a lot more. So without further ado, please enjoy. Okay, so here we are as the Byzantines, and we're going to be working on getting a religion. So I've passed a couple turns here, and we've already secured a pantheon. If you haven't done this already in the game, the way you get a pantheon is you reach, I think it's 10, maybe 15 faith, and once you do that, you'll have a chance to select a belief. Now, as I mentioned before in the previous tutorial, this is kind of like build your own bonus. So there's a lot of options to choose from, and you generally want something that's going to dovetail into what you want to do. So, since there is not a way to win the game with religion, you need to make it sort of good for what you're trying to do. We have selected +1 faith from desert tiles. I have a city here, which is going to be using desert tiles a lot. Gold plus these floodplains. Adrianople here, also, we'll be working a lot of desert tiles between these four. So that was a really good first pantheon for me. Once you have a pantheon, you will start to gain followers. And you can see here, when I mouse over this, it will show 3 followers in Constantinople and 1 in Adrianople. So the way religion spreads is you have 2 options. You can spend faith to purchase a missionary. We'll take a look at that a little bit later. Or you can just kind of let the religion naturally exert its own pressure and spread that way. Whatever city has a majority religion in it, that means if there's 5 people in Constantinople, if 3 or more of them are following a certain religion, that city will become that religion as its majority religion. And once that happens, it will begin to exert pressure on all other cities around it within a 10 hex radius. So that would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, all the way out to here. So that will be in range of but probably outside of La Venta. But if you'll notice, we're not going to see it in this particular one. We'll take a look at it in another game where I've jumped farther ahead. You get kind of this chain reaction. If these 2 cities become my religion, they'll exert pressure on this, and that will flip and exert pressure on this, and that will flip, and so on and so forth until you take over the entire world. Once you have a pantheon, the next thing you move towards is getting a great prophet. So great prophets, at least the first 2 of them, you want to spend to directly to your religion. So if I mouse over here on the faith, we'll see right now we have 128 faith has been accumulated. We're getting 5 per turn. And this next bit is the important bit. 134 faith is the minimum required for your next chance at a great prophet. So what that means is, technically, I could spend the faith on other units. But if we wait until we're above that threshold, we get a dice roll that will let us receive a great prophet. And we definitely want to do that because the religion bonuses are unique. So if you are the first one to roll your religion, you get the choice of every benefit. And then the second one, you won't have whatever the first pick, so on and so forth. You can also see here that there's a limit to the religions. Not everyone can get one. This is a 6-player game, and there's only 5 religions. Obviously, that means someone won't have a copy of their religion. All right, I'm going to progress a few turns here. We can see here now we've reached the threshold. So each turn I take after this one, if a great prophet doesn't get created and spend all this faith, we'll have a higher chance that the next turn will give us one. So let's just progress a few turns here. Okay, here we are with our great prophet, finally. So the great prophet is one of a set of great people. And if you'll notice, if you were keeping track, so the minimum faith needed to create our first great prophet was 134, somewhere around there. And this one is now over 200. And all great people work this way. So whenever you get one, the next one costs more to get. We'll hop over to the other game and take a look at great people after we've used this. So what you're gonna do is found a religion. Now you have to be in a city to do this, and wherever you are when you hit this button becomes the holy city. The holy city basically exerts a super amount of pressure on the people in it to be that religion. So if I go and take this, the great person will be spent, and that will give us our religion. We are the Byzantines, so we will make Eastern Orthodoxy. Now, with our first use of a great prophet, we get our founder belief and a follower belief. Because we're Byzantine, we also get this special thing, but no culture other than the Byzantines get this, so we're not going to talk about this too much. A founder belief is something that will get better the more people are following this religion. But that bonus is only given to the person who controls the holy city for that religion. So if we take a look at these, +1 happiness for every 2 cities following this religion, blah, 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 +2 faith for each foreign city following this religion. Whoever I spread this to will not get this benefit. This benefit is only for the person that owns the religion. Some good choices here. Tithe is very good. It's easy to get. You can count your own population in that. If you need happiness, ceremony of burial is pretty good. And now I'll talk about a follower belief. So the follower belief is any city, state, or city that is following this religion will get this benefit. So if I go over to China, let's say, and I make a city follow this religion, and I have guruship, then that city would also get that benefit. As you can see, it might not be a bad thing to have another civ's religion in your cities if you don't have your own religion, because you'll still get these bonuses. Yes, the founder bonus is really good, but if you have no religion, you should get something, because these follower beliefs can be extremely powerful too. But let's talk about the monasteries, mosques, and pagodas. These are faith-only buildings, meaning the only way you can get them is by buying them with faith, and they will give you these bonuses here. Now we can see we have the Holy City for Eastern Orthodoxy here, and there are 4 followers. And now that this is an official religion, it exerts pressure. So because this is the Holy City, basically it all the time exerts pressure on itself. There's still one leftover follower of the Pantheon. He should, over time, convert to the main religion. Okay, here we've completed one of our social policies that gives us another bonus to our religion called the Reformation belief. This is a small bonus that we get from the end of the piety tree. And these are all fairly self-explanatory. They give a small boost to the religion in some way. So we've taken a few more turns here, and the religion still hasn't begun exerting pressure. So we want to see if we can help speed that along. The straightforward way to do this is to go into the purchase menu, see how we can purchase with gold or faith, and simply buy a missionary. Missionaries, by default, have two uses. They will spend religious power in order to convert a certain number of people. If there are enemy religions in the city, that amount, you'll have to basically spend more of it in order to convert them. But if there's like a city state off by itself, no one has exerted any religious pressure over it, you could probably send one missionary and get the majority of that population to follow you. Also, here we see that pagoda that we got access to. This is where we would purchase it with faiths. Also, for 130 faith, we're getting 8 per turn. That's more than the gold we're getting per turn. And this number can go up very, very high. So, and this is a pretty awesome building. Okay, so that sums up creating the religion. I'm going to hop over now to a different game so we can see what this looks like a couple of turns into the future. So here we are with the Byzantines again. The map will look a little bit different and our religion will be a little bit different. This is a different game that's progressed roughly to where the end of our other game, the other tutorial leaves off. So our religion here is slightly different. We have still the plus faith from desert tiles because we wound up next to desert again. We took tithe, which is one of the reasons why we're making so much money. And we have access to two culture or two faith buildings, the pagodas and the monasteries. And we also have some bonuses that make those buildings better. So if we take a look at this, what that's done for us is this instance, which normally would give us just flat 3 money, is giving us 3 money, 3 faith, and 2 culture, which is pretty nice. And even over here, we're still getting faith from these tiles. Now, you might see something on the map here, which looks a little bit strange. You haven't seen it before. This tile upgrade, we received a great profit, but since we had already upgraded our religion twice, once for creating it, once for upgrading it, we really didn't have anything to do with him anymore. Yes, you can go and religion bomb someone. The great prophet, if you use him to spread religion, he will dump so much of it that if there's another religion there, it will wipe it out. But I didn't really want to do that. I'm making enough missionaries that I felt like I could take over other people without it. So instead, what I did was build a tile upgrade. Now, almost all of the great people do have access to a couple of different things. They usually will have an immediate thing where you can spend them and get a bonus. For example, the great prophet, you can spend him for converting people to your religion. You can spend him when creating a religion, or you can move him into a hex and get his hex upgrade. Great engineers, you can build a manufactorium which has a bunch of production on it. A great scientist builds an academy with a bunch of science on it. And then they also have their immediate spends, which is like a science dump and a build speed dump. Just to keep in mind that if you do get a great person, don't immediately feel like you need to spend them. There can be benefits to building their tile upgrade, especially if you, for example, are specializing a city. And we'll take a look back at our England game in a little bit to see what a highly specialized city looks like and just how powerful they can become. So, how to use missionaries? Basically, they work like any other unit, except there is no need to go to war with another civ in order to get them to move through their territory. So, you don't need open borders. You don't need to be at war with them. You can just walk in. If you are planning on having a religion and you want the benefits, you should be very aware of other civs trying to put in missionaries into your lands and spend them and convert your people. It's a little bit strange in Civ 5. If you want to kill a missionary, you have to declare war on them. There is a unit called the Inquisitor, which you buy just like missionaries, which can remove other religions than what you want out of a city. But you need to be careful with them. They're single use, and one common mistake is someone will come up with a missionary, spend something on your city, and then you'll build an inquisitor to get rid of that religion. But you need to be very careful about that, because if that missionary spent, let's say a missionary went to Adrianople and it flipped the religion from my religion to Catholicism. If I build an inquisitor there, he's not going to remove Catholicism. He's going to remove my religion because I built him in a city that is Catholic. So if I want to remove Catholicism from Adrianople, I need to build an inquisitor in one of my cities that has my religion and then move it over and wipe it out. That's a very common mistake. I've done it several times, so just be aware. The inquisitor and the missionary. So if, again, Catholicism was here and I built a missionary, it would be a Catholic missionary. It would not be an Eastern Orthodoxy missionary. Okay, so enough talk about them. Let's see how they work. I'm planning on religion bombing Stockholm, which is a holy city, and just want to knock out some of the religions. So we can see right now there are 6 followers for Protestantism and 4 for Eastern Orthodoxy, which is my religion. And if we look next to those numbers, we can see the incoming pressure. So this city is affected with 45 pressure for Protestantism and 56 pressure for my religion. And the reason that's so high is I've managed to convert all the cities around here to follow my religion. So Laventa, Sagunta, Adrianople, Melbourne, so on and so forth, are all exerting pressure onto Stockholm to flip it to also be my religion. If we look at Melbourne, you can see Protestantism is only exerting 9 pressure from its single city of Stockholm. So, with this in mind, religion is kind of like a virus. The more you have of it, the more it will infect other nearby cities. And if you have done, for example, what I've done here and cut out a large swath of everything following it, it would be incredibly difficult for someone to dislodge this religion now. They would have to non-stop send missionaries and convert the fringe cities and then so on and so forth if they ever wanted to get rid of this. In fact, they could probably send one missionary every couple of turns and the pressure would just naturally flip it back. You can see here the missionaries have a strength, and the longer you are within borders that are not friendly to you, that strength gets eroded. So there you might have seen the attrition pop up. That lowered the strength of this missionary from 1,000 to 750. So let's continue. Now missionaries have 4 movement, which is, the same as cavalry. Definitely pays to keep an eye on where they are. They can move very quickly through your territory and do some mumbo jumbo before you realize what's happened. So now, after all that excellent work from our missionaries, we have secured the majority religion for our religion and have managed to exert more pressure on it. You can also see here this one trade route is applying even more pressure. So based on this, we should always be the majority religion here, which is excellent because that secures all of these cities are no longer receiving any pressure from Protestantism. But as I mentioned, religion can't win you the game. So luckily, religion and culture dovetail very nicely together. We talked about the other types of victory in the earlier tutorial, and they were pretty straightforward. Science, you research all the sciencey bits, and you build the spaceship. Domination, you kill everybody. Uh, so in this tutorial, we'll talk more about the diplomatic and the cultural victory, because those are a lot more complicated to do. So as far as the cultural victory goes, you win the cultural victory with something called tourism. And what that is a comparison between your tourism, which you can see it here. I have these amounts versus these other civs compared to their culture. In order for me to win a cultural victory, I have to have what's called influential over every other civ in the game. And you become influential by having more tourism than they do culture. If we see here, I'm familiar with these two civs, I'm popular with this. That's just kind of a rating of these. What we can see here, I'm getting currently 12 tourism for these two and 18 for this. And if I mouse over here, we can see what kind of benefits we get from being popular. So each trade route, I get more science, spies are more effective, and if I were to conquer cities from them, I would get less minuses. You can get bonuses in 3 different categories here. So you get a 25% bonus if there's a trade route, if you share a religion, and if you have open borders. And here you can see that with these two, my tourism is slowly overtaking their culture output, but versus China, my tourism is lagging behind. So they're getting more culture faster than I'm getting tourism. This is actually really good. Normally, you don't get tourism at all until later parts of the game. So the fact that I'm at almost 70% with Sweden, even 50% against China, that's really great. And we get bonuses for that also. So here we can see on the cultural victory how much each civ is generating for tourism and if any of them are influential at all over the others. And again, you do need 7 of 7 to win this. So how do you get more tourism? So the reason we have this at all is we have a bonus to our faith building that is giving us tourism. So we're getting that from Constantinople. We're getting that from Adrianople. You'll notice everything else in here is a big fat 0. And there's all these different slots. So what the hell is all this bullshit? To walk through that, we're going to leave this game for a second and load our England game. Here we are as England. You might recognize this from the first tutorial. This is where we've ended up at turn 237 based on the start we had. So real quick, these are the original 3 cities we settled. And then quite easily we went down and conquered all of Aztecs. We have complete control over our continent now. And a very, very large number of cities. If we take a look here at this culture, we can see now, obviously in this game, we're not going for a cultural victory, so our values are very poor. However, this is a good example to show how you get tourism. Each of these slots is space for what's called a great work. And these are pieces of artwork, great writing, Mona Lisa, the Iliad, historical items of enormous significance culturally. So here we have a great writer. We can see that based on this symbol down here. He's got a little Incan well instead of the music note. And what I will do here is tell him to create a great work.
That will go into my building right here. And I could then trade it or attempt to get a theming bonus, or I can just leave it alone and just be happy with my two culture and two tourism.
So each of these on their own will give you some culture and some tourism. It's usually +2 for each. And if you see these plus numbers, so what the hell is that about? If I scroll over here and just take a look, it will give me a lot of word salad. But if you read through this carefully, it will basically explain a way to get a bonus out of this building. You need these two certain pieces of artwork to have a theme. And for the museum, that theme is they need to be from the same era. They need to be the same type. So either two pieces of artwork or two pieces of artifact. And they need to either be both from your culture or both from other people's culture. So how do you do that? It's a little bit tricky, and that's where we get into great work trading. All of this, by the way, is accessed from this button, the culture overview. It will bring you here where there are these different tabs. In the first tab, we have our culture. In the second tab, we have the great work swapping. Third tab is currently the victory progress. And then the last one is you can see either your or anyone else's progress towards a cultural victory. Here you can see what people have put up for trade. And also you can fill out these slots if you want to say, I am not getting any bonuses out of the Sign of the Four for England Renaissance, so I'll put it up for trade and then someone else can trade it. Okay, so let's try and swap this for our industrial. So now that's become available here.
Another way when you're working on getting great works to fill out your museums or amphitheaters to get your theming bonus is to get items called artifacts. And the way you do that is, first of all, you have to have the technology archaeology, which is here at the beginning of the industrial era. And with that, you build an archaeologist. And once you have an archaeologist, it will reveal something called antiquity sites. So here's one here. And what you do is you will build an archaeologist, move it on top of this site, and have them build a tile upgrade that is a basically an archaeological dig. So let's build an archaeologist here. And once they complete that archaeological dig, it will give you the option either to turn the tile into a heritage site, which is a tile upgrade. It gives you culture. And the other option is you can turn it into an artifact, and that will become an item that you can put into a museum. It can get theming bonuses just like anything else. It'll also give you the standard culture and tourism that you get for whatever area you're in. Okay, so the final item to talk about within culture and the cultural victory is when you reach the modern era. So in this box and beyond, you will have the ability to unlock a new type of social policy called an ideology. Kind of similar to the religion, this is a bit more of a build your own type of bonus deal. So when you choose your starting ideology after hitting the modern era, you'll have to pick one of three different versions. There's freedom, order, and autocracy. And when this comes up, it will show you a brief intro about what they are good at and some of the things that they have available. Once you've chosen your ideology, we can see here we have the freedom ideology. You will then unlock policies in sort of a tree here. You start off with access to as many level 1s as you want, and then to get a level 2, you have to have 2 level 1s, and then to have a level 3, you have to have 2 level 2s and 4 level 1s. it is possible to get a large number of these filled out, but not all of them. Let's take a look here. I have just unlocked an additional social policy, so I can either get an additional level 1 version, but instead I'm probably going to take the level 2. Not only do you get a new tree to unlock and get a bunch of nice bonuses when you hit ideologies, but they also interact with the other civilizations in the world. If you have tradition or patronage or commerce, it doesn't really affect any other civ in the game. But if we're freedom, for example, I can click on this cultural overview and look at the influence by player and see that the Netherlands has a couple of levels of influence over the other civilizations in the world. They are very influential with Byzantium, not terribly influential with us, but they have some over Brazil and Russia. And what that is doing is making their ideology more influential in the world. And that causes problems for every civilization that isn't also following it. So, for example, we're suffering right now from dissidence, and that gives us more unhappiness. You can see that's going in here because of public opinion. That's what it's called. For Russia and Byzantium, it's causing even more problems with this civil resistance. And once you hit this level, you actually can get barbarians showing up in your land as rebels because they disagree with your state of government. This becomes a really big deal when you have a bunch of civs that don't follow whatever the most influential ideology is. It can cause a lot of problems for them. You can see here, if you mouse over this, what we're influenced by. This symbol, this one sword, means that they have one level of influence over us. If we look at Russia, autocracy has 2 levels of influence over them. And that's a result of these levels here. Now, because we're suffering minuses because we're not following the most influential ideology, we have the option to switch to whatever the most influential one is, which happens to be autocracy. And when you do that, you get some happiness out of the deal, and it will subtract a couple of tenants. So you can see here, we'll gain 13 happiness, but we'll get 2 fewer tenants in the new tree. You'll have to make your own decision if you think that's worth it or not. We actually have an enormous amount of plus happiness right now and are able to kind of combat this. And the bonuses we're getting from freedom are really helping us, work towards our goal versus whatever everyone else wants to do. So since I mentioned here that we are going for a diplomatic victory, that's a good segue into the next section we're going to talk about. In order to achieve a diplomatic victory in Civ, you have to get elected world leader. So before we talk about how to become elected world leader, we need to talk about the World Congress. The World Congress is a feature that will unlock once the majority of the civilizations reach the Renaissance era. So once that occurs, whoever meets all other civilizations, including the city-states, and completes the tech printing press becomes the host. The host is very important of the World Congress because it will allow you to propose something every turn, as well as giving you additional delegates. So if we look in the World Congress, which is accessed by hitting this diplomacy button and then the World Congress button, we can see here right now that I am the host. I get 2 additional delegates, and I am allowed to enact one of these proposals every turn. Now, these proposals can be many different things. I'm currently attempting to enact the world ideology freedom. That will combat some of the autocracy that we were seeing, and it would also be really good for me. I happen to have the largest number of delegates. We'll go into why exactly that is in a minute. And then also the Netherlands. So the other civilizations will get turns, basically, to attempt to enact their own things. Now you can see over here, we have 6 turns remaining until the next Congress meets. And after those 6 turns pass, we'll all take a vote on this. Let's go ahead and progress the turns now to see what that looks like. All right, so the turns have passed. The World Congress is now going to meet. The amount of time between when you make votes and make proposals is dependent on the era. As the modern era progresses into the atomic era and then the information era, the World Congress will start happening faster and faster. So here we can pledge our delegates to vote yay or nay. Obviously, yay is a yes and nay is a no. Each one of those cancels each other out. So we can see here, I definitely want this. Since this is a game that has AI, we can kind of see what some of the civs are going to vote. And of course, they're pretty much all going to vote no for this. And I really want this to pass. So I'm going to put all 13 votes into a yes. If I was sure that someone else would vote for this, I might put this down a little bit and vote no's here. But I'm fairly certain that this is going to fail because pretty much just Netherlands want to be a dick and get that in. So we'll go ahead and commit the delegates and we'll see what the vote comes back. Well, shit. Apparently, no one voted no on this one, and well, it's good that we put everything here because there were 16 yays and 12 no's.
In order to actually win the game with a diplomatic victory, the World Congress first has to be upgraded to the United Nations. And that will happen once the majority of the civilizations reach the atomic era here. Once that happens, a new proposal will be available in the United Nations to select a world leader. This goes up for vote just like any other proposal, and it's pretty much assumed that everyone is going to vote no, except for you or whoever you can trick or bribe or threaten into also voting for you. Once this passes, if it's successful, you win the game.
And that's basically how the World Congress works. There are a huge number of options here. So since that's gone and we're the host, we can propose something else. We can always repeal one of these. I could put this in and it would take it out. Or I could go for one of these. Let's see. I think I'm going to put standing army tax in. I don't really care about the silk happiness. We have plenty of happiness. And since we're talking about happiness, let's go ahead and talk about how this number is so ridiculously high. So, as you can see, I have a lot of luxury resources and I have a lot of city resources, but then there's a whole huge number coming from other things. And the reason why is because I have allies with a huge number of city-states. If I pull up the diplomacy map and just based on the city-states, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, probably like 75% of the city-states are our allies. And what happens if you have an ally, first of all, any strategic and luxury resources they have, they will give to you. So I have all of this crazy amounts of this stuff, and a lot of it is coming from these guys. Also, depending on what type of city-state they are, you get another type of bonus. So Hong Kong is a mercantile, so they give me just straight up happiness, and then for being an ally, I get this special type of resource, which only exists from this city-state called porcelain. which is giving me the full +4 bonus. From Florence, which is cultural, I get culture per turn. So if I look over here, you get 78 from city states, which is almost the number we get from our cities. Now, granted, I'm not going for a cultural victory. This isn't very high, but you can see just how significant these bonuses can be. For faith, we're getting 16 from city states. Happiness, we get 9 base happiness from city states. That's not even counting porcelain, jewelry, which you can only get from a city state. So basically, what I'm saying here is if you can manage to become an ally with one of these guys, there are a lot of benefits. You might want to take over one of their cities if you're struggling with low city count, but if you can push them all the way to an ally, you will get huge bonuses. Now, these guys are even better because we filled out the patronage tree here. It's become an exponential type thing. And at this point in the game, I can probably confidently say we will definitely be able to win the world leader because additionally to all those other benefits, the city states also count for delegates in the World Council. Right now, they're worth 1 each, and as we progress throughout the ages, they become more and more influential. So I think in the next age, they're actually worth 2 votes each. So how can you get one of these guys to be your ally? Well, the most straightforward way is to just give them money. The point breaks here are 30 for friends and 60 for allies, but you can see here we're 120 over that. So if more than one person has ally, let's say I'll just go ahead and give them money. I'm at 41 right now, so if I add another 40, that will put me at 81, which should be enough to become their ally, but I'm not. And that is because the Byzantines are even higher than I am. So I'll stay at friends unless I can pass them. And to pass them, I need another 58. And I'm made of money, so we'll just go ahead and do that. And boom. Now I'm their ally. Other than just giving gold, you can pledge to protect them. That gives you a very small amount. Or you can do these quests. Now, quests are probably the best way to get allies with a city-state because obviously they don't cost you anything. You just have to do whatever they ask of you. So this guy wants to generate a great admiral or build the Nishnotswastin. I'm probably not going to do either of those, so we'll just forget about that. But for example, these guys, I could complete a sea trade route to their city, and that would give me, I think it's around 30 or so. It's a healthy amount of influence on them. Most of these quests are specific to you, so if someone else completes a sea trade route with them, they probably won't get this bonus. However, you can see here they have a shared quest, which is they'll reward whoever gets the most culture. You can see there the leader has 5,000, I only have 2,000. I'm probably not going to win that. It's a good idea if you're going to try and make friends with these guys to keep an eye on the quests, and especially to keep an eye on making sure that you remain their ally because you can have tons of influence with them, but if someone has more, they will replace you. So now I'd like to kind of go through my cities and just sort of talk about them and give examples. In the first tutorial, we talked a lot about specializing a city and what that looks like and what that can do. Let's talk about London. It has 19 population in it, which is okay. It's not phenomenal. But if I zoom in here and take a look, out of London, we're getting 221 gold a turn, which if I look at my economics, that's almost half of what we're getting out of our entire empire. And the reason this is so high is if you see these spots right here, this is the building that the great merchant makes. So by The Great Merchant, you can get a bunch of money immediately by sending it to someone and doing a trade mission, or you can build this building. So by building this building and having all of the economic buildings, the bank, the market, we are multiplying everything that we're getting. So 42 from the terrain, and then 50% bonus for that, and another 25% bonus for that from all this stuff makes this so incredibly high. If we look down here at Tlatelolco, this city has great access to production, and this is another great person building here that's providing a crazy amount. So out of this, we're getting 104 hammers, which if we compare that to our economic overview, it's by far the highest. So you'll notice here, there's very few buildings actually compared to what I could have built. I could have put all these other things in here, but I don't really get a great exchange. It's making a tiny bit of money. I think I put a market and a bank in there just because. The schools can always be good because as long as you have a high population, you'll get a return on that. But for example, there's 0 cultural buildings here. So there's some happiness, some faith, but not everything. And if we look at York, this is my science city with 166 science. And most of this is accomplished by the fact that it has 28 citizens in it. It doesn't make a whole lot of production, it doesn't make any gold, but that 166 science is huge. And again, if we look here, it doesn't have the money buildings, it doesn't have a lot of the production buildings. It just focuses on doing what it's doing. Let's talk about Hastings. Hastings, it might look like crap, but it is contributing. And the reason I put it here was to get access to the salt. Also, it has some other things around it, and if I didn't build it here, the asshole AI would do something like this jerk and put it there anyway, even though it's squished. So this has been on avoid growth for probably about 100 turns now. Because of that, the population hasn't gotten really big. It is right now 12, some of my other cities are like 28, but it does contribute quite a lot just off of the few buildings that it has. But other than that, I don't really expect too much out of this city, but it is self-sufficient, meaning because it's no longer growing, these 12 citizens only add so much unhappiness to my empire. And the happiness buildings I've been able to place into it have sort of given it like a net of 0, so it doesn't really affect it. So out of that, I get another city, which contributes some, and it doesn't cost me. And because I'm controlling the population, it's not continuing to grow and grow and grow and sandbag my happiness.
That concludes the tutorial. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed it.